Then Philomela, when she realized that she had reached that house of wickedness, shuddered in horror and turned deathly pale. And Procne, in a private place, removed the emblems of the revels and revealed her sister's face, a face of misery and shame, and took her in her arms. But she, convinced that she had wronged her, could not bear to meet her eyes, and gazing on the ground, she made her hands speak for her voice, to swear by all the gods in heaven that her disgrace was forced on her. Then Procne, in a flame of anger uncontrolled, sweeping aside her sister's tears, "This is no time for tears, but for the sword," she cried, "or what may be mightier than the sword. For any crime I'm ready, Philomel. I'll set on fire these royal roofs and bury in the blaze that scheming fiend. I'll gouge his wicked eyes, I'll pluck his tongue out, cut away those parts that stole your honor. Through 1,000 wounds I'll sluice his guilty soul. Some mighty deed I'll do, though what that deed shall be is still unsure." As Procne spoke, her son, Itys, approached. She knew what she could do. Looking at him with ruthless eyes, she said, "You are so like your father." And she planned in silent rage a deed of tragedy. Yet as the boy came close and greeted her and hugged her, as she stooped in his small arms and mingled kisses with sweet childish words of love, her mother's heart was touched, her rage stood checked and broken, and despite herself her eyes were wet with tears that forced their way. But then she felt her will was faltering. She loved him well, too well, and turned again to Philomel, and gazing at them both in turn. Why," she cried, "can one of them speak words of love, and the other has no tongue to speak at all? Why, when he calls me mother, does she not call me sister? See, just see, whom you have married, you, Pandion's daughter. Will you betray your birth? For such a husband, for Tereus, love and loyalty are crimes." Then, with no pause, she pounced on Itys, like a tigress pouncing on a suckling fawn in the dark jungle where the Ganges glides, and dragged him to a distant lonely part of the great house. He saw his fate and cried, "Mother, mother," and tried to throw his arms around her neck. She struck him with a knife below his ribs and never even looked away. One wound sufficed to seal his fate, and Philomela slit his throat. Alive and breathing still, they carved and jointed him, and cooked the parts. Some bubbled in a pan, some hissed on spits. The closet swam with blood. Then to the banquet Procne called her husband, unwitting, unsuspecting, and dismissed the courtiers and servants. On this day, so she pretended, at her father's court, this holy day, the husband dines alone. So, seated high on his ancestral throne, King Tereus dines, and dining, swallows down flesh of his flesh, and calls, so dark the night that blinds him, "Bring young Itys here to me." O joy! She cannot hide her cruel joy, and bursting to announce her deed of doom, "You have him here," she cries, "inside." And he looks around, asks where he is, and as he asks and calls again, in rushes Philomel, just as she is, that frantic butchery still spattered in her hair, and throws the head of Itys bleeding in his father's face. She never wanted more, her tongue, to express her joy in words that matched her happiness. With a great shout the Thracian king thrust back the table, calling from the chasms of hell the snake-haired Furies. Gladly, if he could, he'd tear himself apart to vomit back that frightful feast, that flesh of his own flesh. He wept and wailed, and called himself his son's disastrous tomb. Then with his naked sword pursued Pandion's daughters. As they flee, you'd think they float on wings. Yes, sure enough, they float on wings. One daughter seeks the woods, one rises to the roof. And even now the marks of murder show upon her breast, and feathers carry still the stamp of blood. And he, grief-spurred, swift swooping for revenge, is changed into a bird that bears a crest, with for a sword a long fantastic bill, a hoopoe, every inch a fighter still.